Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here at the Miserable Liberal and Ron Placone.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hello.
Ron Placone's going to be in Florida next week. Go to ronplacone.com for tickets. Gainesville. Okay, here we go. So Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats are great political strategists, right? So this is from last year. Nancy Pelosi's favorability rating falls to 9-year low among Democrats. We already showed you Trump is about twice as popular as Nancy Pelosi. So, this is from today. Associated Press. Nancy Pelosi, California elected House Speaker, reclaiming the gavel to lead Democrats confronting President Trump. So there you go. That makes sense, right? Least popular Democrat. Let's make her the face of our party. And so then when you do that, when you make Nancy Pelosi the new Speaker of the House with the support of the progressives, what do you get? Oh, Progressive Caucus stands down on PayGo battle. So if you don't know what PayGo is, I'll tell you real quickly. So PayGo means that if you want to do a program, let's say, hey, we want to do Medicare for all. Now, Medicare for all would require raising a lot of taxes on people. But what they don't tell you is that if we raise your taxes $5,000 a year, that's going to take away your $10,000 a year health insurance premium. So you actually save money, but we have to raise taxes significantly to save you that money. So what it means is if we have to raise taxes to pay for Medicare for all, you have to then cut out the amount of tax you raise to pay for that program. You have to either tax to raise to pay for it, or you have to cut it out of the budget somewhere else, and it has to be deficit neutral. You can never raise the deficit to pay for a progressive program. That's horrible politics. It's horrible politics. It's horrible economics. Because you have to deficit spend when you go into recessions. They did deficit spend when we went into that Great Depression in 2008, but they deficit spent only for the banks. So they pumped a lot of money into our economy, just in the banks. They didn't actually give it to people or have a jobs program or do what FDR did, which is why, by the way, our recovery wasn't good. Also, so that's what PayGo mean. And PayGo, all you really need to know is if you want to do something that's a new program to help progressives, you can't do it with PayGo. But when the Republicans get control of government, which they just had, they come in, they blow the deficit sky high. They come in, they did a tax cut, right? And they don't have to offset it with anything else. They don't have to pay for their tax cut. So they don't have to cut programs to pay for their tax cut. They just blow up the deficit. But Nancy Pelosi, with this rule, is handcuffing progressives. They can't do any progressive spending. Let's remember they've also increased the deficit $200 billion a year to give to the Pentagon since the height of the Iraq War. We are spending $500 billion a year. At the height of the Iraq War, we're now spending $714 billion a year. That's an increase of 40% for war. 40% for war. Do we get 40% increase in road construction or jobs programs or the education department or any other goddamn thing that people want? No. So, again, that's what PayGo is. PayGo means you can't do progressive legislation that helps people. This is something that conservatives would you would think, except they don't. The Republican Party blows up the deficit every time they get in power. Every time they just put $1 trillion holes in the deficit. And here comes the Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, the corporatist that she is. Oh, we got to rein in that social spending. But of course, if we ever have to ramp up the budget for military, we'll do it. Imagine if they were spending an extra $200 billion a year on social programs instead of the Pentagon. Everybody could go to college for free, for instance. We could end homelessness in America. For instance, we could end homelessness in America. And everybody could go to college for free, and we would still have about $100 billion left over.
Yes, Jimmy, but how are we going to fill our prisons?
Right?
When people are happy and thriving.
That's right. So you couldn't do that. So that's what PayGo does. It stops you from doing any real progressive legislation. And this is Nancy Pelosi pushing it. This is like something that what Newt Gingrich should be pushing. This is what Huffington Post says. However, the Congressional Progressive Caucus effectively decided it was not worth tanking the entire set of rules governing the new Congress to jettison PayGo, since they had received assurances from the Democratic leaders that the provision would always be waived to allow progressive bills to proceed to the House floor. So let me just break this down. So there's about, 90? How many members of the 90 members of the Progressive Caucus. They could have easily said no to Nancy Pelosi over this.
Well, and 3 of them did, just to be fair.
Right, just
3 of them did.
3 of them did. 3 out of the 90.
3 out of got to start somewhere.
And just look what it's so the Progressive Caucus, the 90 of them decided, or 87 of them decided it wasn't worth taking the entire set of rules just to get rid of PayGo. But PayGo screws everything else up. PayGo kneecaps you from doing any real progressive legislation. But then watch what they say. They go, but we decided that we had assurances that the PayGo was going to always be waived anyway if we want it to be. Well, then why have it? Well, then what's the point of PayGo? So this doesn't pass the smell test to me. If you guys decided that you to vote for it because it's always going to be waived anyway, why have the goddamn rule? That doesn't make sense. So someone needs to explain that to me. Does that make sense to anybody else?
And nobody has.
No.
Nobody has given me a justifiable reasons why we're doing PayGo in the first place. Only that Nancy Pelosi wants to continue her winning platform of losing.
So, with the assurances that PayGo can be waived, we do plan to vote for the House rules package and proceed with legislation to fix the statute. The co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, and Mark Pocan said in a Wednesday statement. So they're the co-chairs of the Progressive Caucus.
Yes,
they signed on board with Nancy Pelosi. Only 3 people didn't, and that was Tulsi Gabbard, Ocasio-Cortez, and Ro Khanna. All 3 people have been on this show, by the way. The rules were approved by largely a party line vote of 234 to 197. The House will take up blah, blah, blah. 3 Republicans, Tom Reed, John Katko, and Brian Fitzpatrick, voted for the package. And 3 Democrats, there they are, Ro Khanna, Tulsi Gabbard, and Alexandria Ocasio, voted against it. But the rest of the progressives went along with it. That's it. They got 3 progressives to stand up to Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she's already made the Congress more conservative already. She's already given in to the conservative wing of the Democrats in the House. She's already done that. And she hasn't bent 1 inch towards the progressives. The architects of the package, which was unveiled by new Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Rules Committee Chairman Jim McGovern earlier this week, said it will promote diversity and help fight the deficit. So what do? They spend $15 trillion on quantitative easing. The banks need money, we print it. You need money, go pound sand. We're going to fix the deficit. Yeah, but 30 million people don't have health care. We're going to fix the deficit. Yeah, but 80% of workers are living paycheck to paycheck. We're going to fix the deficit. Hey, we're in 8 wars. We're going to fix the deficit.
Hey, Medicare for All actually saves us money overall, and nobody's left out.
No, we have this. We have to fix the deficit.
Well, how wouldn't pulling out of Syria help with that?
You would think
Pulling out all those wars, wouldn't that help with fighting? Helping the deficit.
This is their goddamn priority. Fighting the deficit. This is Nancy Pelosi's first fucking priority. Fighting the deficit. What is she, Bob Dole? By the way, Republicans don't fight the deficit. They come in and they give their constituents everything. $1 trillion in tax cuts. Bloated military. I will be voting, this is Ro Khanna, I will be voting no on the rules package with PayGo. It is terrible economics. The Austerians, because that's what, so let me just tell you what happened. So from 2000 to 2000, so ever since Bill Clinton and the Republicans and the corporatists repealed Glass-Steagall and deregulated Wall Street, there's a huge bubble. They created a bubble. Everybody knew it was a bubble. I figured it out in 2006. I didn't even own a home. I figured it out. They all knew what they were doing. They stuffed their pockets with billions and billions of dollars. And then when the economy crashes, they tank the whole world economy. And then how do they pay for that? They give trillions of dollars to the banks. They just print it. And then they do austerity. They put that debt burden on the soldiers, on the shoulders of the working class. That's what the frick this is. You can't have Medicare for all. You can't have a college. You can't have a functioning financial sector. You can't have a jobs program. You can't have nice things because we got to do this because Wall Street tanked our economy and we bailed them out, and now the austerity is going to be on your shoulders to pay for it. That's what this is. So he points to the Austerians were wrong about the Great Recession and the Great Depression. They were wrong. Austerity doesn't work. It's the opposite of what you should be doing. At some point, politicians need to learn from the mistakes and read economic history. Yeah. Keynesian economics is what got us out of the Great Depression, not trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is what got us Trump and 80% of workers living paycheck to paycheck. Many other progressive lawmakers voted for the rules, despite their concerns over pay-as-you-go. Congressional Progressive Caucus, there they are. So the chair people of the Progressive Caucus were the ones who wouldn't stand up to this. Do you realize what this is? This is... I'm trying to think of an analogy for what this is.
Well, it's just so ridiculous. They received assurances PayGo would be waived. Like, what is that? Hey, I want to make a new rule. Every time you enter into this building, I slap you in the face. That sounds terrible. I don't want that. But I'll waive that. I won't. I don't actually want to. I don't know if I believe you.
I'll take you at your word. Was that it? That's all I need to do?
I don't want to do it. That's right.
But it has to be a rule anyway.
You know, so having this PayGo rule, this would be like saying, I want to go to war, but we're going to have a rule in there that I can't really use any weapons. So the progressives want to go to war and have economic policies that help the workers, except we're going to take away your weapons. You can't do any of those. You can't do any of those policies because we have PayGo. Oh, but she said they'll waive it. Then why do you have it?
Well, we'll waive it. We're going to keep the weapons in this chest over here that's bolted, locked. Where's the keys? We don't know, but we'll waive it. We'll get them when the time comes. Maybe, sort of, probably not.
We'll
vote for it.
We'll waive it for progressive legislation, but we're going to keep it instituted for, if somebody wants to raise a military budget, we won't let them because of PayGo. You think that's going to happen? When do you have that law for? That law is there to stop progressive legislation. So there they are, the caucus chairs, the progressive caucus chairs. Wow. Pramila Jayapal and Mark Pocan said they would vote for the rules package because they received assurances. There you are. Chairman McGovern and House leadership have committed to us that PayGo will not be an impediment to advancing the key progressive priorities in the... Well, really? Then why do they have it? By the way, Politico says Pelosi 2, Ocasio-Cortez 0. That's over the Green New Deal and the Green Caucus. I mean, the committee. So you think I'm kidding about printing money and giving it to the banks when people are being kicked out of their house? So this is how they did the people. Bankers, nobody in the banking sector lost their house. In fact, this is what they did for them.
Tax money that the Fed is spending?
It's not tax money. The banks have accounts with the Fed much the same way that you have an account in a commercial bank. So to lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed.
We simply just use a computer. To give money to them, we just put another zero in their ledger sheet. Now they got more money. That's what he's saying.
In the most basic of terms, when they want money, we print it.
He'll even say so. Watch.
So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been...
He just says it. He just says it. We're just printing money for them. So when the banks need money, what do? They freaking print it. That didn't come from a tax somewhere, just like Stephanie Kelton says.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Stephanie Kelton says. That's modern monetary theory. You can never go out of money if you print your own money. You can never go out of money if you print your own money. You never run out. We print our own money. So that's why all this deficit fear-mongering is just that. Fear-mongering. The Republicans never give a shit about the deficit when they get in. Ever. Ever. Look at the history. I remember Ronald Reagan throwing $400 billion deficits a year. That was mind-blowing to people. Nobody said anything because the economy picked up. Really? You mean you pump more money into the economy and it does better? You put more money into the pockets of workers and the economy? So there it is. He said it. Didn't even bother.
No subtlety.
So, here we are. Here's your progressive takeover. So I don't want to. That's another video we'll do because they did it. That's a pretty good article, actually, in Politico.
Tax money?
From Bill Scheer. He breaks down how Nancy Pelosi has just taken Ocasio-Cortez to the woodshed and, over the Green New Deal and over this and everything. And so we're fans of Ocasio-Cortez and we're fans of her policies, and we'd like to see 435 Ocasio-Cortezes in the House. But we need to sit down and rethink our strategy as progressives, that working inside the Democratic Party being the best way to affect policy. I think if you had, instead of 90 progressives inside the Democratic Party in the House, you had 90 Green Party people or 90 third party people. We start a third party or Green Party, whatever it is. Now Nancy Pelosi needs you to get elected. She also needs the Progressive Caucus, but for some reason they all get behind her. There's 90 members of the Progressive Caucus and they couldn't come up with someone to run against her. That's just amazing to me. So here we are. Anything else? The PayGo's there. Three progressives voted against it. It's hard not to be deflated, right?
And if you're cheering for Nancy Pelosi right now, which some people are, how do you have any inkling that you're on the right side of history? On one side, you have someone going, we got to make sure everyone has health care. This is a catastrophe. We got to do something about climate change. We got to fight this. The time is now. And then on the other, you're saying, nope, screw you.
No, it's not. Yep.
Here's the keys to the car. Nope, you're not getting it. How can you find yourself rooting for that person?
I don't know.
Me neither.
I don't know. People just get caught up that she's not Trump.
Yeah.
This is more of the anybody but Trump, and that all our problems start and end with Trump, and that's decidedly not true.
Let me ask you, is she for Medicare for all?
No.
That's it. That's a done deal, everybody.
I know.
House Speaker, Democrat, not supporting Medicare for all.
She's supporting PayGo, which is something.
What progress can we make?
And all the
PayGo?
progressives just fucking voted for her today. It's again, the reason why I do this show and the reason why I say the things I say is usually underscored by the idea that if even I can see this, if even I, which all goes back to 2006, when even I could tell walking around my neighborhood and seeing what the houses were worth and knowing that the people who lived in them couldn't afford them if they had to buy them today, I knew there was a bubble. All of a sudden, my neighborhood turned into houses worth millions of dollars, and the people there weren't they didn't all of a sudden move out and move in a bunch of doctors and lawyers and professional athletes. It was all the same blue-collar people in my neighborhood. So I knew it. So that's the whole point. If even I can tell we need a new strategy. Because as Ron Placone points out, we don't have time for this anymore. There's nothing pragmatic about an incremental solution to a catastrophic problem. Climate change is coming right now. We need to do something right now. We need a Green New Deal right now. They won't even get people who take money from the fossil fuel industry off that committee, the Green Committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's allowed.
That's allowed. You can take fossil fuel money and be on that committee.
Appropriate action, not so much. But taking fossil fuel money, yeah, that's cool.
So I would love to see what I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that my buddy Cenk Uygur is going to be upset about this. I know he was upset about it before, so we'll see. I'll be real interested to see. I mean, he's a leader in the Justice Democrat organization. Even though he's not technically connected with them, he has all their candidates on, as we do. So it would be real interesting to see how he handles this. If you like our content, looking for ways to help support, here's a great mug or a t-shirt or a thing. You can get it right underneath there, or you can become a patron to our show. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Plus, come see a live Jimmy Dore show. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our live shows, and make sure you're subscribed. I know it sounds crazy, but they unsubscribe people from our show all the time, and you have to click that bell so they send you a notice when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.